Hi, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're on r/entitled parents. So let's get right into the stories. Our first story is mother emotionally and intellectually manipulates son for years, turns psychotic when she realizes that her throwing the kid out after an argument dooms the rest of the family. For context, hi, I'm Kerr. As of late, Delta Kruger, need to get that fixed. I'm the 27-year-old lad of this story. I'm considered a high-functioning autistic individual, officially disabled by government standards. So I'm not sure where this takes place, but maybe it's in the U.S. I don't know, but there you go. My mother for a long time, but specifically these past 4 years, has been taking in and managing my checks for the government to keep the household afloat, making use of everything but $100 of it, which often got absorbed in moments of crisis, as well since I didn't spend it. And while doing so, was sowing seeds of doubt and fear into my mind about ever learning to live on my own, stating I was very far from ever reaching that. I myself didn't really try to struggle or push my way out, even when I turned 18. She offered to sign me up as a dependent, but I, thankfully, declined. I decided for the good of the family to keep working with them. That changed about 4 years ago. 4 years ago, my developmentally held back brain decided to say, "Oh, now it's time to teenager!" And I suddenly craved independence, looking every which way for a way to flee gracefully. Every time, though, there was some unfortunate situation or action that meant that if I left with my two incomes, my mother became my PSW, which that has its own irony later on, the family would fall apart and I'd be dooming all the animals, some of which were never listed on our lease at the time and were hidden every inspection. Now, what happens when you cage a teenager that so desperately wants to be on their own thing? They get rebellious. 3 years ago, I got a therapist through my state insurance program, and after venting all my hopes, venting all the hoops my mom was making me jump through, all the work that was piled on me due to my mom's bum knee, and the stupid high expectations of me that would always end up creating screaming matches to her over those 3 years, she finally said to me, as of roughly a week ago of this post, "That literally sounds like an abuse case." I initially dismissed that and said, "I'll keep it in mind," as we ended the call that day, only to then, immediately after, get chewed out for jumping on a request my mom made earlier in the day, as she had requested research for something that'd make another lengthy story. But regardless, she basically chewed me out for hounding her in an ill mental state due to current situation, despite telling me 5 minutes prior to do the research for her. That's when I went back to my room and texted my therapist to start filling out the paperwork. 1 day later, Mom and I get into another spat, this time about the dishes, which were my daily chore. Sure, it was assigned to me, but my drive to do this crap for her was dead by that point, when my effort can be shot down on a whim, even though it was ordered. The argument is hazy in my head for many a reason, but the main one is Mom went feral the moment I snarked like a teen would. She slammed her way into my room and started grabbing crap and hunking it on the lawn, screaming for me to get out, breaking one of my monitors in the process. Dad stepped in and told her that since I was over 18 and on the lease, I was legally given 30 days notice, which is when she stopped, turned to me, and said, "Well then, I'm going to make those next 30 days Heck for you, and walked to her room. Dad let me get the few things she did get on the lawn back inside at that point, and I sat down on my chair. Then it dawned on me. She played herself. For years, she said that if I went away, she would have to get rid of everything. And I mean everything. It was all propped up by me, by my SSI, and the income she got by being my personal support worker. Well, now she had given me and the government valid reason with her behavior alone that even if she rescinded the 30-day notice, that we could keep our home anyway. It was refreshing. In that moment, I felt courage well up in my chest. She couldn't manipulate me anymore. She fell into what she had made of her life and was blind to my connections I made for years outside the family, constantly slamming them for being liberals. I took that renewed energy to reach out to those friends, those found families, my lovers, and even my grandparents. I looked through my cards and emails and found my disability care workers' info and told of the situation and burnt the midnight oil, chasing my new life while my mom literally pounded the adjacent wall between my bedroom and her bathroom, screaming like a banshee about not hearing me pack fast enough. To keep this from going on for ages, I'm going to be brief on the next few stages to now. Grandparents saw this explosion brewing for years. Opened arms and let me take my belongings and my bearded dragon pancake in while mother was away on psychiatric care. With my caseworker's help, I got my SSDI under control. I got guidance on what steps to take next, and they're doing research for intermediate places after grandparents. Me and my boyfriend are looking for joining together and living somewhere in Washington with my found family, chipping in as well. As of today, I'm officially disowned from my family. My mother has not only disowned my grandparents, but also forced Dad to as well. I tried to contact them to drop off the phone plan so I can keep my phone number, and all I got was a statement of disownment and that further contact will lead to a restraining order. I got a special state-related order to have their firearms reclaimed since mother is a psychopath and have my grandparents locking their doors now at a fair. I'm waiting for my case manager to get back to me to have my documents extracted from the residence, and basically all I've got to do is play a waiting game, watching my parents burn because mom pushed all of their connections away, even my brother, who's stoic as all crap, showed he was ready to fly too. So the main thing to take away from this is learn to value yourself and judge the words of those even closest to you, for you never know if you're just a pay pig to your own mother. If people want, I can refine those breezed over parts, but that's enough to get the picture. Sorry. I don't know why I'm so coffee. Anyway, I think it's absolutely terrible. And your father does not have a spine. If he allowed your mother to make him disown you, your brother is awesome. That he is, kind of going through this with you. Your grandparents are awesome for sticking with you through this. Your mother sounds terrible. I'm sorry that she put you through this. Really. Hope your father comes to his senses and realizes that he doesn't, that you are worth more than that you're worth more, basically. But yeah, that was one heck of a story. Sorry, there's a Edits. Okay, P.S. As I was printing the paperwork to file for the firearm removal, I realized I still had access to the printer back home. It took all my willpower to not print a FU message to it, and instead I just disconnected my PC from the web accessible printer. Despite blaming me for everything falling apart, she was the one who kicked me out, and I was always taught to not have the last word. Day 2. I have softly realized that I'm going to be posting an update. That if I'm going to be posting an update, it's best to do both a comment version and an addition to the original post through editing. Long story short, the paperwork I filed I just turned in, got court time in about 2 hours, 0 court experience whatsoever, so I'm going to by the seat of my pants. If it goes well, though, my grandparents and I can sleep a little safer knowing that that if they get retaliatory, they'll have to do it with sticks and stones and not 100% pure American freedom, if you catch my drift. Day 2, part 2. Keeping it brief because video planned. Extreme risk protection order dismissed. Judge said I was polite and concise, but officially there was not enough evidence. High bar of standard for that petition. Getting in talks with Grandpa to see if his lawyer can rephrase all this better to the court. And that's all we have. I'm not 100% sure what this person is saying, or he's saying with all of this, but I do hope everything turns out well for him. And on to our next story. My mom was pregnant, and my parents blamed me for losing the baby. Well, now I know why my parents tried to force me to move back in on Thanksgiving. My mom was pregnant with kid number 6. I only recently found out. To start things off with, one of my siblings found my Reddit account not too long after my last post, and they showed it to our parents, who in turn showed up at my apartment screaming at me about how I had set them up to get my mom arrested and made the whole world think they are bad parents. Well, they are. I called them out while standing in my doorway about all the crap they've done, right down to leaving my siblings at my door on a day they knew I worked. That's bad parenting. Anyway, you look at it, and it didn't really matter that I set them up because I would have otherwise called the police on Mom anyway when she left the kids at my door. And in the end, it would have made no difference. My dad looked like he was ready to raise a fist at me, and I said that action alone proves that there's crappy parents. Then stated if he tries to hit me, it'd turn out like last time, and I don't think his balls could take another hit from my boots. And yes, I was wearing them. Dad seemed to wince and clench his teeth together at the thought of what I did to him last time. So he ended up leaving and dragging my mom out by the hand. And he yelled back before leaving the hallway that he expected me to pay them back for the fine they had to pay for child abandonment since it was all my fault. I told him to F off, and that I didn't owe them crap. They didn't say anything back. It was just recently that I got some very bad news. My mom had been about 6 months pregnant, and she lost the baby after a bad fall at home when she slipped on wet porch steps and landed face down in gravel. Honestly, I couldn't tell she'd been pregnant at all at the time I saw her prior to that. She's a bit on the heavier side and has always been clumsy, but not fat. Just enough that you really couldn't tell if she was pregnant or not. It is sad, and this was her first miscarriage, so she really wanted someone to blame, and that someone had to be me in her eyes, because I destroyed the family by not helping and by costing them so much money. She and Dad showed up at my apartment again with her in crutches, just to say it was all my fault she lost the baby because I refused to come home and help when they needed me. It turned into a pretty big argument where I called them out on how they were just looking for free childcare and looking to blame me for something that's not my fault. It's not my fault they got pregnant again when mom is 44 years old. And it's not my fault it happened anyway. Blame it on the rotten old porch dad was too cheap to ever fix or replace. Well, my father laid his hands on me again when I said that, and I got a sharp right hook from him, and then I ended up kicking his butt one more time. I'd never really stopped working out at the gym, and I'm even stronger than I was when I took him down last Thanksgiving. He didn't stand a chance. I blanked out in a rage, and I ended up breaking his nose and knocking out both of his front teeth before my mom's screaming made me stop. Police were called, and I was put in cuffs while my father had to be taken to the hospital. Thankfully, the hallways of my apartment complex have CCTV, and I had my phone camera going behind me in my apartment as well, and I started recording when my parents knocked. The footage easily showed that my father attacked me first, and I defended myself. I'm especially in the clear as it was labeled self-defense, but now my parents are wanting to sue me for my dad's medical bills and the fine they had to previously pay. Dad can't go to work for some time due to the beating I gave him. He's in a neck brace with a broken nose, a black eye, 2 lost teeth, and who knows what else. His beard also had to be shaved off, which he also is unhappy about. He was already pretty much dead to me even before this, so I guess this makes him double dead to me. And what little power he ever thought he had as my father is gone. I'm physically much stronger than him, and soon I'll be starting a new job that pays way better thanks to all my hard work these past few months. And maybe, with a few years of saving, I'll get a much better place to live. My eldest sibling called me to say I was their hero for beating the crap out of my dad, and they were planning on leaving, just like I did when they turned 18. But it was my next sibling after them that found my Reddit posts after hearing them on YouTube. And that led to my parents finding out because my mom heard them talking about it and made them show my post to her. They said she was enraged and started breaking things. My siblings have apologized that they let mom and dad find out and that they wouldn't have never said anything if they had known mom was listening. Both have also said that they were happy there won't be another baby though. They're already having to do a lot of the child care for my parents right now and they hate it. They've admitted to blaming me for leaving at first too, but they realized that when you become an adult, you deserve to take your own path. It's still up in the air whether or not my parents actually will try to sue me, but I think I can safely say that it'll be a loss for them if they do. One of my friend's uncles is a lawyer and said he'd represent me if my parents decide to sue. And he also says that they don't have much of a case since it was self-defense. And to my parents, who will probably read this, I only have this to say: leave me the heck alone. You don't own me or my siblings, and when the time comes for them to be able to leave at 18, I'll help them get out of your house. You both have always been selfish narcissists. It's not my fault mom lost the baby, and it's not my fault you had such a hard time without me in the house to be your free babysitter. Consider that broken nose and lost teeth as a good reason to never ever touch me again. And don't forget, I have only told a fraction of the crap that went on in my life thanks to y'all here. If I wanted to, I could post story after story of the crap that went on in my childhood, but that won't bring me satisfaction, so leave me the heck alone. Oh. Ooh. Wow. So she or he, I don't know, had posted one edit, but because of what they said in the edit, it said that if anybody wants to read that, to not post that edit, so I didn't post that edit. But edit 2, I've asked my siblings for more details, and my mom was in the hospital for nearly a week with whatever injuries she had from the fall. Someone here questioned if she was pushed. Now I'm asking that myself. But the best explanation I could get is that my mom slipped and fell off the porch while in a hurry to leave somewhere. I've heard of people getting hurt worse and stupider ways. I've also looked into the cremation thing, and it said 7 to 10 days to get the ashes. So that means the urn that came home with them was empty? I'm so confused. But then again, the funeral thing my parents did was several days after my mom got out of the hospital, and my parents kept that urn in the bedroom until the day of their funeral, of their little funeral. Guess they could have gotten ashes then, might explain why they came home drunk. But this situation is so weird and twisted that questioning it further is making my brain hurt. So there was some questionings about the baby and the funeral, and there was a cremation, and there was a lot of questions. So OP, I hope you get some answers with that. And also, 6 kids is a lot of kids. I'm really glad that you are stepping up and going to help your siblings to get out of this toxic environment. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this is in the U.S. that CPS gets involved with this, because this is absolutely crazy. Moving on. Sorry. A lot of reading makes me thirsty. Entitled mother blackmails daughter to have a relationship with her. Because blackmail always works, to have a relationship. I, 30 female, have had a very rocky relationship with my mother. Can't imagine why. To begin with, my mother is a mandatory reporter now, which is ironic since I was taken away from her and given to my father at 14 because of physical and other kind of abuse happening in her care. And the physical was at her hand. So the backstory as an adult now. I have 2 children who are 11. The 11-year-old is female and a 12-year-old who is male. Entitled mom has never babysat or kept them without my supervision. Good. I'm glad. I wouldn't let her either. I do let them choose if they see her or not. They, however, are uncomfortable around her, so they do not spend much time with her, nor will I force them to. Good for you. I've never fully cut her off, but I am low contact with entitled mom because of continued emotional abuse and gaslighting toward me. So now on to the current issue with entitled mom. 2 nights ago, she called me while she was intoxicated, and on top of basically yelling at me, she was also bringing up my traumas and triggered a PTSD attack. Then while I was having the attack and my partner was trying to calm me down, entitled mom began claiming she has never done anything wrong and it wasn't her fault, and told me I should just shut up and get over it already. Then after beginning the conversation with, "You are such an amazing mother and I love you," she told myself and my partner that I'm a terrible mother and that I don't love my partner. She then moved on quickly to accuse me of being not a good word. Her reasoning was that I got upset out of nowhere during the conversation, and being a word would be the only thing that she could explain that behavior. Not the PTSD attack while my mother was screaming at me to shut up, get over it, and then I'm a terrible mother and I don't love my partner. No, it's not that at all. So I hung up and texted her to never speak to me again. So entitled mother decided to blackmail me while telling me she is a mandated reporter, and if I didn't start having a closer relationship with her and make my children come see her more and let her keep them by herself, she would report me to DHS. Entitled mom said that she would say that I am on substances and being incompetent to care for my children because I have epilepsy from a head injury I sustained in her care as a child. The allegation is completely false. The only thing I am on is epilepsy medicine prescribed by my doctor. But just in case, I bought a full spectrum substance test, took it in front of witnesses, and took a picture of the results. I'm clean. And have the entire thing on video, making sure it's not showing anything inappropriate. I am perfectly capable of taking care of my children, and they are both healthy, happy, and well-rounded. On top of all this, entitled mom has also stated she will not take me to court to get or that she will take me to court to get grandparents' rights to get my children, whether I like it or not. So entitled mom is literally blackmailing me to make myself and my children have a relationship with her that we do not want. I don't want to put my children through that, but I also don't want to put them through DHS investigations and interviews and a whole behind court case, which could end in their being forced to see her anyway. I'm terrified she will treat my children the same way she treated me, and I have been a mama bear and will try to keep anything bad from happening to myself as that happened to myself as a child to never happen to them. So I'm gathering evidence of her blackmail, evidence that I'm a perfectly capable mother, evidence that my children are cared for emotionally, financially, physically, and medically. Then on Monday, I'm going to go to the local DHS office and let them know everything that's going on. Get the jump on entitled mom, and then go no contact. So the details. 1. She told me this via a drunken phone call, the blackmail. 2. She accused me of substance use via text after I texted the no longer contact me. 3. Her exact text message was, get off substances. Can't help your kids if you're not coherent. Yes, she used the wrong your. And then, OP, I'm a mandated reporter. So if you don't want to visit or call, I can't change that. But all of those were after I said, do not contact me again. And lastly, she says she knows I'm doing all this to punish her for something she didn't do, and that I'm playing my partner, but he didn't buy into her BS and is being very supportive. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Why is it always the crazy people that do mess like this? And it makes it even worse that she's a mandated reporter. How did this lady become a mandated reporter? Oh. I know you don't want to put your kids through a DHS report, but I also would not let this woman win by emotionally blackmailing you like this either. It's called boundaries for a reason, and she is pushing your boundaries. If you don't want to have contact with her, do not have contact with her. And yes, I'm also the person who said that I also believe in highly believe in forgiveness, but this lady right now is not in a place. I mean, you can forgive her because again, forgiveness is for you. But she's not in a place right now where y'all can have any kind of a relationship. And she needs some time to herself to think about the actions that she's doing. And maybe at some point later that can happen, but not right now. And I think this is our last one. But yeah, let's read. Entitled mom gets her way, only for it to backfire spectacularly. This tale takes place decades ago. Before the rise of the internet, before cell phones, phones were in the process of shedding their tails, so to speak. I was a girl fast approaching her double digits. Months earlier, my silent world had exploded into sound with the invention of a pair of tiny battery-powered I cannot speak apparently today. Powered devices that boosted sound called hearing aids. Before this, one made do wearing earpieces connected to a black box worn on the chest using a harness. These devices had a lot of issues and didn't work well for me. Too much feedback. I would much later make use of a similar system called an FM system during later school years. My 10th birthday was on the horizon. My parents surprised me by renting the party room of my favorite pizza restaurant where most of the staff knew sign language. That's awesome because there's a lot of people that don't know sign language. I know a little bit of sign language. I definitely would make a person who knows ASL like really mad because I don't know enough to be in a conversation with somebody who is deaf, but like I know some words here and there, and I know the letters, so I can like spell stuff out, and I do know a few words here and there, but I could definitely not have a conversation with somebody who's deaf. But for those people that know it, it's awesome. The restaurant is set up with a party room in the back corner. On the opposite side is the arcade room. There's no door between the party room and arcade. This is important. Below these rooms was the standard restaurant floor. Booths lined the walls. The midsection was divided into two parts. The front part was sunken, much like in a 70s era conversation pit. A central circular table held a fireplace with gaming systems lined the tables against the walls. An NES, an SNES, N64, Sega, Atari, and PlayStation. No Xboxes, that would be released 5 years later. The section, so this might have been, 90s? In the 90s? Sounds like it's in the 90s. The section behind that was a regular table and chair seating. Both sections were rentable for parties. We were setting up in the party room when entitled mother appeared. I saw her talking to my uncle and didn't think anything about it as I was in the process of studying my word list. At this point, I was learning to form my noises into words. I could make sounds, just not actual words. A light shoulder tap got my attention, and my cousin signed that my uncle wanted my attention. I go to him. He signed that entitled mom wanted the party room and was offering to switch with us. I asked where her section was. It was the back section of the middle area, and I agreed to switch. We switch, and I overhear entitled mom complaining about gang signs and not being sure of switching for fear of violence. But entitled kid wanted the party room. We switch. This puts us right next to the arcade. A bit later, I'm having my speech lesson with my dad. Entitled kid and friends try to dash through to get to the arcade. Is told he can't and runs off crying to entitled mom. I'm on my dad's lap with one hand on my chest and my other on his, trying to mimic the same motions his chest makes as he says the words on my list. I'm struggling with a word. We hear a screech. Entitled mom is pointing at us and screeching about intimacy, our use of gang signs, and how her husband was going to arrest all of us when his backup arrived. My uncle stood. Now, he's a huge beefcake of a man who's a big teddy bear inside. He towers well over her and glares at her. His mouth is moving. I later learned he was telling her I was deaf, learning to speak, and the language was sign language, not gang signs. And no, her spawn and friends were not going to disrupt our party. They can go around us instead. He didn't care it was too far, and entitled kid was not unable to walk the distance. At that, red and blue lights start flashing outside, and entitled mom looked smug. Cops rush in. Her face, as my uncle greeted them, was priceless. My uncle was the police chief. He told entitled mom she had a choice. Either she could wear a pair of silver bracelets and stay a night in 5-star lodging, or she could explain to entitled kid he can't disrupt our party and has to walk around us to get to the arcade while leaving us alone. The cops are dispersed, and my uncle gives an assignment to Pete and Jim, fake names, to stay. It's a good thing he did. Entitled mom ended up earning herself a pair of shiny silver bracelets and a night in 5-star lodging. First, entitled kids and friends destroyed the salad bar. Next, he tried to make off with the N64, then nearly succeeded with the PlayStation. He also got caught trying to steal my new Hot Wheels garage playset twice. I think I overheard her calling me a really not nice name for people that have disabilities and asking why I wasn't in a home yet. The stereotype was finally starting to fall. Entitled Mom tried to skip out on paying for the party room, in which she actually never bought the party package. Husband wasn't even a cop. He ran the evidence lockup area. This was over 27 years ago. It's fuzzy. I will answer any questions to the best of my ability. So this lady not only did she not even she just helped herself to the party room even though she didn't pay for it. I mean, I guess you could get away with that stuff. Like, it sounds like it's in the 90s. I think that's about the time when the N64 came out, like the late 90s. But wow, this kid trying to steal stuff. The good thing the cops stayed around. I mean, they would have just been called back anyway, sounds like. Good thing for your uncle, or your dad, or both of them, really, to be quite honest. But yeah, no, makes me so mad these days, especially. People really do need to mind their own business. This country is made up of a lot of people that don't speak English, or English is their second language. And while yes, I would really love to understand what other people are saying, because I don't speak another language, any other language for that matter, in any shape, form, or fashion, it is not up to me to make another person speak English if that is not their first language. If they're talking to another person in a different language, then they're allowed to do that. That is their language. They can speak to that other person in another language. And it nowhere in the Constitution, despite what you might think, does it say that people have to speak in English. It doesn't say that. But yeah, no. And sign language is not gang signs. Gang signs are completely different. And of course, yeah, they might look like it, probably, if you're looking at it quickly. But if you watch for a while, they are completely different. Not that I've ever seen a lot of gang signs. Yeah, I'm not that type of a person. But yeah, no, they're completely different. But thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. Have a good day.